All right, Ayao, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. I appreciate it. I want to start with the 2026 regulations, and if you could explain a few things about them. Obviously, there is a lot to them, but when we look at the engine formula, 50-50 split, can you just walk me through the different ways that the battery can kind of be recharged?
Yeah, I mean, just amount of power you got to deploy this year is basically like 3 times of last year. So there's a lot more dependence on energy deployment during the lap, right? Uptime sensitivity is huge. Then let's say if I simplify it, the amount of energy you can recover is not really, I wouldn't say enough, but it's basically on the edge to be able to deploy the amount of energy you need to deploy. So that's why things like outlap preparing for qualifying becomes so important, and you will be talking about super clip and lift and coast, etc.
So super clip and lift and coast, are they the same sort? Are they the same
No,
thing?
super clip is what they're calling super clip, or what we calling super clip, is when drivers still flat out, but MGUK, the electrical energy, start having a derating.
Okay.
Then lift and coast is actually when driver actually lifts off the throttle pedal.
Okay.
Super clip, driver still flat out, but then up until certain point, both internal combustion energy and the electrical motors giving 100% power.
Okay.
After a certain point, it starts cutting the electrical power. That's why it's called the super clip.
And then for downshifting, can you also recharge the battery like on downshifts?
Sure.
And so is that something we'll see more of? See drivers going down into lower gears? When...
But the lower gear thing is because then obviously to get higher engine speed and higher power, then that means the battery dependency is less.
Okay.
So let's say to get out of the corner, right? If you're trying to get out with first gear compared to let's say second gear with higher engine speed, you can depend more from the ICE to deliver the power. So that means that you don't need as much MGUK to deliver the power, right? So because just the amount of energy you can deploy is limited, right? So that's why like where you can save it, where you can recharge, you want to be doing that. Okay. You only deploy when you need to deploy.
And when you deploy, there's boost mode and then there's also overtake mode.
Sure.
Those two functions are a little bit different. Can you just explain the difference between the two
overtake mode is like when you are within 1 second of the car in front on the next lap after the, let's say, detection point, like a DRS. But DRS after detection point, you get on the straight the DRS effect. But on the overtaking mode, basically after detection, you get it for the whole lap. So you can deploy more energy. Whereas the boost mode is a different. Boost mode, you can use it if you like anywhere. Right, so with the bottom.
And then how much so if I'm the driver and I'm using boost mode, would I use that to defend against a driver who's trying to overtake me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then how much energy is sort of coming out from the boost mode?
Boost mode, I'm trying to remember the number. I can't remember if it goes, I think actually, that one, you can program it whatever you want.
Okay.
You can deploy extra 100 or extra 50 or extra full 350. Okay. So it just depends, it's programmable.
And the 350 is basically the
maximum
amount of energy.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Full power, yeah.
And then for overtake mode, you were saying that you kind of have to be within a second
1
of
second,
the...
yeah, it's like a DRS in that sense. Yeah, but instead of obviously reducing the drag, because on the straight line, everybody's got a very reduced drag setting because front wing flap goes down, rear wing flap opens. So the difference is you cannot do the DRS anymore because nobody's got drag, if you like. So you do it on the energy.
I want to talk about the team now, sort of focus more on how things are going for you guys, because you have looked really strong over the 3.5 days we've had of testing so far. I mean, it does look like you're the top of the midfield, though, to be honest.
Honestly, it's way too early days to say that seriously. And then because it's the regulations brand new, everybody's evolving so fast. If you look at one picture from Barcelona Shakedown session to last week's Bahrain session, I think picture you see is very different. And I'm sure even comparing this week, at the end of this week, compared to last Friday, picture will be different because everybody is evolving, the understanding the regulation, how to get best out of your PU, best out of your aerodynamics as well. And also because we started this year's running so early in January in Barcelona, people's got different strategy how to bring your race one package, right? Some people decide to delay their initial running. that might be closer to their race one package. Some people decided to have a very different package in Barcelona compared to, let's say, this week's test. Like you saw Audi already last week brought a substantially different car. So picture is going to change so quickly, but I think that adds to the excitement for the fans.
So how have you asked the team to approach the test, the 2 weeks of testing then? Like what have you asked from the team to...
But it's actually three weeks of testing if you consider Barcelona. Then Barcelona, for us, it was so important that we get up running on a day one, as early as possible, and then do as many laps, as many mileage as possible. Why? Because again, it's a brand new car, PU side, chassis side. So if there's any reliability issues, we're going to find out sooner rather than later. So that was the big focus on Barcelona. And also the very fast look on new PU regulation, right? How to prepare for qualifying, how consistent is the deployment during a long run phase, etc. So in order to get the initial idea, you got to be doing laps. So that was the most important thing in Barcelona. Next week in Bahrain is a bit more about on the energy side. Is from everything that we learned from Barcelona, get it more consistent, be more, let's say, consistent in delivery across the laps, across the runs, etc. And from the chassis side, considering the reliability issues are sorted, then you can look at the sensitivity of the cars, initial sensitivity to all the air platform changes, mechanical balance changes, etc., to see how the car is reacting, because it is a very different car to the cars we had in last years with the ground effect car. So sensitivity is very different. How you need to set up the car is very different. And then this week is more about looking for, let's say, race weekend. So looking at more refinement, more procedural based. We've got to get the qualifying procedure, we've got to get the race start procedure right. Then I'm sure everybody will be doing a quali sim and race sim again this week to just look at those last refinement.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you started with the basics and then sort of
build onto it. Yeah, that's why like every day, every session counts. Because if you fall over at some stage, that will have a knock-on effect that you may not be able to recover. So that's why I was really happy and then proud of the effort from everyone to get us up and running on day one in Barcelona, and they managed to do the shakedown even before that too.
Looking to Australia, I mean, I guess how do you approach that? If this is sort of building towards the basics, doing well with the basics, building on top of that, then when you get to Australia, what do you look for then from the team?
That's not going to be a continuation curve. Why? Because you got to remember this is actually day 4 of us being in Bahrain, right? So we're going to have 6 days in Bahrain. But when you turn up to Australia, yes, that's the circuit we know, we've been racing there before, but in terms of requirement for energy deployment, qualifying lap preparation, etc., it's going to be a whole new challenge. So the pre-race weekend preparation, either it's through an offline simulation or simulator, that's going to be the key. The things, for instance, just to give you an idea, things, let's say we learned using half a day in Bahrain here last week, we need to learn it within like 2 runs in Australia, right? Because you got FP1. FP1 traditionally you have two sets of tires. Traditionally you have 3 runs: low fuel, high fuel. That's your 1 hour done, right? So you got to start your FP1 run 1 at much more, let's say, advanced stage where it's somewhere representative, if you like. You cannot start so far away from everything you should be doing in terms of deployment and everything. So I think just a lot more emphasis on how you turn up to the race weekend.
How does that affect the drivers? I mean, because it sounds like the drivers have to, I guess, take their knowledge of everything to another sort of level and still have more capacity to be able to drive the car and then also do all the engineering components.
This is why, the discussion amongst not just with chassis engineers but PU engineers, much more important. Before, if you like, once you got a stable PU regulation, it's almost plug and play, right? PU side, it works. You know what to do with it, and you know the sensitivity. But here, with this brand new regulation, with much more dependency on deployment, the cost of getting, let's say, your outer lap wrong is huge. It's not like a matter of like you losing 500s or 10s. Even 10s is big, right? Last year, 10s was massive, but this year you're talking about losing like half a second because you've done your outer lap wrong, right? Or even the race start. Race start's going to be tricky. this has been one of the main talking points, and we've been doing a practice race start whenever we can. But that's very tricky. So all those basics, like doing the race start, doing the pit stop, doing the qualifying outlap, and then deploy in a sensible manner. All those basic things, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong very badly.
Yeah. Wow. Looking at both of your drivers, I mean, Ollie was pretty impressive last year. I guess are you looking for more from him this season as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a gradual progression, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even throughout the last year, we always knew he had amazing talent, amazing personality to be able to absorb everything and improve quickly. Which is exactly what he proved last year. He didn't necessarily have a smooth run for the first half of the season, but he showed a true potential, which is never in doubt. And then last half of the season, how he improved on the consistency and delivery and execution, that's so impressive. And then this year, it's going to be another step, right? With a totally different car, totally different, let's say, driving requirement. So, but I have no doubt, he steps up very quickly, and he's shown that in the last couple of weeks.
For Esteban, I mean, obviously he's been in one sort of formula for a number of years, where Ollie, he's kind of, he's gone to Formula 3 and Formula 2 and then into F1, and things have changed and the car dynamics change. Do you think it may be easier for Ollie to sort of get on top of all this stuff before Esteban does? Or since Esteban has a lot of experience, do you feel that he's not going to struggle either, and they both will jump on top of this regulation pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think, if you talk in general, I think, exactly the way you said it, Oli may have an advantage, but I've seen how Esteban started off in Barcelona and continued last week and continued this morning. He's got on top of it very, very quickly. So again, I think the thing is, he's got 10 years of experience in F1, but he's still young, 29, and so I don't see any difference in that sense, in a good way. Both of them are adapted very, very quickly, and listening to engineers, talking with the engineers, very, very engaged, and then to get best out of the package.
Ayao, thank you so much for taking the time.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.